about that old Jermaine. You only retired a few years ago. Come on.
He sounds like an old man.
Mario.
Showcasing your age.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Let me speak. I say to you, that ball was on my time, his time, your time, and I'm saying it was on.
Anytime.
I watched that again. I saw just the margin. Look, I've never been a fan of VAR, but it doesn't matter. Look, they put it in the game now, and we have to deal with it. So if I looked at it, I think he was still on, and they called it because I think they didn't, because I've been upstairs. I've seen how the guys work. But sometimes I ask myself, it's okay to put somebody that understands the game next to the person that makes the decision, because this was crucial for me.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
because I've brought this up with some fellow Dutchmen as well, Mario. I think with René Meulenstein, how they've tried to implement it in the Eredivisie, whereby if there is an offside decision to be made, and Jermaine, I'm not sure if you're aware of this either, if the lines are touching, so you have one line for the attacking player, one line for the defensive player, if they're touching, then it doesn't have to be given as offside, even if one is ahead of the other, like today's one. If they were touching, it could be at the discretion of the referee, the linesman, or it wouldn't be given at all. That's one way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to do it.
Go on, Mal.
Go on, Jermaine. Go on, Jermaine.
I just feel that if your arm is in front of a player, it shouldn't be deemed offside, because you cannot use your arm to score a goal. It's handball, so it should be you know, your head, your chest, your knees, your foot. If that's in front of the defender, then yeah, deemed offside. But if your hand's hanging out, that shouldn't be classed as offside, because you can't use that part to score the goal, so it shouldn't be deemed valid. So hopefully, you know, 20, 21, 22 season, you know, the rules are going to change, because it has to be changed, because some of the decisions are ridiculous. The margins are absolutely ridiculous.
Mario, I know you wanted to say something about that.
No, I agree. I mean, I feel like, you know, look, the game of football, for me, is very simple. I want to enjoy the game. I don't want to think like I have to go back to school and do some math, because that's where it's getting to now. It's becoming too complicated. It's like, it's almost affecting the mentality and the movement of the guys. And I don't think it should be about that. Football is a game of joy. And I feel like when it comes to complicated, you got to be heady. You know, you got to be in your head and thinking about what is good, what is not good. I think that's a little bit too much. I don't like that.
What about the standard of officiating within the Premier League? That there's a lack of consistency as well. There's two things I want to take a look at. Firstly is the handball incident. Rather early on in the second half, it was the ball in the Chelsea box. Firmino crossed it. He was quite close to N'Golo Kante. But look at the position of Kante's hands. It's in an unnatural position. It's not in that natural silhouette, which we're so often talked about in the Premier League. The T-shirt line. Should this not been a penalty for you, Jermaine?
Look, I'm telling you now, beginning of the season, this would have been a penalty. But because there's been so much talk, so much controversy about handballs when you're literally, you know, a centimetre away from a player, there's not much you can do. You can see that he's pulling his arms back to keep his body tight to his body. So in the distance of Firmino, it's how, if someone's kicking, it's more ball to hand than hand to ball.
It's still unnatural.
He's kicking the ball at him at such a...
But it's still
But he's got
unnatural.
his hands beside his hands. You can't stand, you know, like a penguin when someone's crossing the ball. You have to, you move certain ways. So if someone's crossing, as a professional footballer, when someone's crossing, you lift up your hand, your leg, your arm kind of comes up with it. And he's, like he said, he's got them to his side to a certain degree. They're not out, you know, you should be a couple of millimeters, a couple of centimeters to have your arms left or right. So I see in my eyes that shouldn't be in a penalty, and the right decision was made. But earlier on in the season, that would have been given because of VAR, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with Jermaine. Earlier of the season, we would have given it. We wouldn't know you having this conversation. But because of this is going back and forth, for me, I'll be honest, look, regardless if I know, you know, look, I want my team to win, I would have called that a handball. Why I would have called it a handball? Because that's what they would have done in the early days. But because it's going up and down, yes, of course, I agree too. Where do you want me to leave my hand now? I want to play football. I need my arms to find a balance in my body and make sure that I can do things. As long as I don't really go after the ball, it's not like he went after the ball. The ball got kicked against him. But the thing is, why we're having this discussion, going back to it, is only because of what happened in the beginning. In the beginning, they would have called this really quickly. Yeah. Nowadays, they're going to wait and see what happens.
I'm going to try to counter everything we've said here, though, gents, by what happened earlier today. Not earlier this season, but earlier today. Spurs were 1-0 up against Scott Parker's Fulham. Game was rather late on already. Josh Marchant looked like it equalised for the Cottagers, a vital point for them. This could have been the difference between them staying up at the end of the season or not. Looked like it was going to stand until we take a closer look at the clearance from Davinson Sanchez hitting Lamina on the arm. Now, Jermaine, you were talking about keeping hands to the side. His hands are at the side. They don't move from when the ball is kicked to when it hits his arm, but it was ruled out. The goal did not stand. What do you make of this? Consistency.
Because I think it is consistency, but I think the rules state that if it leads to the opponent scoring a goal, then you know, they will look at the handball. As that cross didn't lead to a goal happening, it didn't lead to anything. I know we couldn't see where the ball was going, but it didn't lead to a goal. That's my understanding of that kind of a rule.
We can see here on the screen, there's an offence if a player, after the ball is touched there or on a teammate's hand or arm, even if accidental, immediately scores in the opponent's goal, creates a goal-scoring opportunity. Surely this rule needs to be reworked, Mario. Surely it needs to be tweaked and addressed accordingly.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think, like I said, I think all the rules in the book need to be readdressed and have a good look up the next season. Because there's been so much hype, so much controversy. I would like Mario said, we just want to enjoy the game. We want to go back to it being fun, being fluid, and stop, you know, having talking points about handballs, what's not. We want to talk about skill, we want to talk about games, we want to talk about goals and players, not these silly decisions.
Mario?
No, I agree with you, Adam. Look, I don't want to drive over it too much, but I feel like there has to be a clear decision-making in what they want. Look, I led my team a number of times, so I knew how my conversation was with the referee. And one thing that I didn't like about the referee is for them to be in charge of the game. Now they took that responsibility away and brought VAR into the game. What does that mean? Now you got two people to play against when you want to have a conversation. I don't like that. Because if you step to the ref, sometimes you step to the ref and you tell him, look, because he's tried to lead the game in a way that he thinks sometimes he's in charge of the game. But you feel like he's in charge of the rulings, but he cannot dictate the game. But he can dictate the game only if he makes wrong decisions. And now we got VAR. Why? VAR is away from him. So we're taking a responsibility away from him. He can't take responsibility away from us. So the ref should make that decision.
What I find amusing is, for the viewers at home, we keep in contact via a chat group on our mobile phones leading up to the game. And I jokingly threw this out there. We'll probably spend most of the post-show talking about some strange decisions. I said it jokingly, but it's come to fruition. It must be frustrating, Jermaine, that I know that you enjoy talking about the beautiful side of the game, but when's the last weekend that you can remember where we weren't talking about decisions made by VAR, offside decisions, lines being drawn, this or that? Should we just scrap VAR? Is that a solution?
Well, I don't know about scrapping it, because there is times where it's coming handy. But I can't remember where, you know, I've watched the game and there's not been an incident where we're talking about the actual game. Like, we should be sitting here talking how well Chelsea have played today, and how good Mason Mount's goal was, and how they've stopped Liverpool, you know, the champions, you know, dictating play on their own turf. But instead, we're talking about, you know, possibly Kante's handball and, you know, Werner's offside. It's coming to me every week that there is certain decisions that we're talking about that's leading the headlines. Is it going to change next season? I'm sure they want it to. So let's see. Let's see what rules they change. And I think the FA will look into it deeply for the next season.
Let's have a bit of fun, gents. We're going to hear from Mason Mount in just a moment. We're going to get our attention back to actually footballing matters. If you could change one rule right now, within the Premier League, I know it differs slightly from country to country, competition to competition. Mario, what would it be? You first.
If I could, country to country, what ruling regarding the game?
If we're just looking at the Premier League and how they've decided to implement VAR and offsides and how they view it and how they implement it week in, week out, what would you change just for the Premier League?
I would not want, the key decisions when the referee can make the decision on his own. I think he should take that responsibility. That's what I would love to implement into the game.
Jermaine, yourself, because I'm thinking back to a conversation I had on the weekend with Tony Adams, and he said we should be able to hear what's being said by the referee. Or was it Renee Muhlenstein who said that? Sorry.
It should be good to hear what the VAR's thinking and what's their opinion and their reason behind giving the offside. But I'd also like the offside rule to be changed where if it's a millimetre, there's no gain, there's no advantage in that. If someone's hand's in front of me, there's no advantage. Just simple, common sense ruling like that, I would like to see change.